Team House with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
MANSCAPED.com. And what does that get you? 20% off?
And free shipping.
And free shipping. 20% off and free shipping. Use the promo code TEAM20.
In honor of the Marines, give your bad boy a high and tight. Like, snap it up.
Give it a horseshoe. Fuck it.
There you go.
So, Chaps, hit us up about the battle and going into the city and how this unfolded.
Yeah, so it was definitely something that I was not ready for at all. Like the first firefight that I was ever in, I remember thinking I probably should have listened to my mom. Like this was a bad idea. Like I've gotten a little more. I just wanted a little bit taste of real life, and this was more than I had bargained for. And I don't know if that's the same for everyone when you first hear rounds coming at you and like coming through walls and things like that. But in all reality, I was very scared. Like I didn't know a whole lot about what they were doing because I had done at that point we had been in country together and been working together for probably about 2 or 3 weeks. So I was getting a little more comfortable and spun up. But we hadn't talked about what to happen if we were actually in the middle of a firefight, where they were going to go. And it was honest to God amazing. And still looking back and hearing the guns go off and nobody else panicking except for kind of me in my own brain and thinking, holy shit, these guys are fun. Like everybody knew what spot to go onto the roof, how to communicate, how to move and how to reload, and somebody else comes and takes your spot. And I was watching it all in real time. Like this feels like a movie to me. And then eventually one of the platoon sergeants was like, Cochran, get your ass on the fucking roof and lay down some fire.
Yeah.
And when I'm going up the ladder well, I think, oh, cool, I'm going to get a car. Like that's the first thing that goes in my, I'm going to get a combat action ribbon. Sweet. I think I might be the first non-recon dude in Okinawa to get one. And so I'm like, I can't, in my brain as I'm going up, I can't wait to see my Master Guns' face with his little bitch ass stack when I get back. I'm going to have more medals than all these motherfuckers.
Right.
And so at this point, like I'm in my first firefight, and I'm like, no, dude, I am that dude. And so when I first started firing off rounds for the first time at people, I was like, maybe I am confident in this. I can do this. And I got the confidence in that I needed. And it would serve me well, like being able to kind of slow things down a little bit. I think combat can equate to what it's like to be an NFL quarterback as a rookie, where you've played a bunch, like you've played at all different levels. And the first time that you go out to the NFL game, all they ever talk about is how fast the game is. But then when you've been in it for a little while, the speed of the game slows down. You can understand what the defenses are throwing at you and how to maneuver and act. And a part that was difficult as a dog handler is that you have rounds going off, mortars going off. You hear complex attacks with V-bits hitting different buildings around you. And you have to control an attack dog who's super nervous, who's also never been in this environment, and who wants with everything in their power to protect that. Like this is my guy. I am protecting him at all costs. And so having to tell Saika to like chill out, everybody around us is good, and keeping him in a heel position and relax while I'm trying to fire, while I'm trying to listen and figure out where to go. It was incredibly stressful, like dealing with that added element, because a lot of times they teach you that dogs can eventually start coming up leash and they'll get so nervous that they'll start attacking the handler because too many things are happening and the dog just kind of freaks out. So I have to keep my eyes on the enemy, look it to my Marine left or right, and then also not worry about getting attacked myself. And because if I got attacked and Saika didn't want to let go, they would have had to shoot him. Like there's none of those guys would have been equipped. And I thought in the middle of the first firefight, I've got to teach them how to get him off me if something like that happens. So then I'm training them in different techniques after those firefights are over. And it was just, it was very chaotic. And luckily we changed how we did training, where if you were going to deploy with somebody and you were going to work with them, you did some pre-training before, which should have been a no-brainer. But I think your point is very apt. Like the staff NCOs that we worked with, they didn't have the experience either. So they were just kind of guessing what we would need too.
Yeah.
It was something.
That's really interesting. So, what were the circumstances of your first firefight? Was that in Fallujah, and you were inside a building at the time? And
Yep. So we had just taken over a house. We had just taken over a house, and they said that some of the guys that were more experienced are like, we have a bad feeling, and I was like, well, what is that bad feeling? They said when we started rolling the city, we saw some women starting to leave to one side and children going the other way, and prayers are more frequent than they usually are over the loudspeakers, and it was things that I would have never noticed. Like, and if you hadn't been in that situation, why would you notice?
Right.
Like, that's not something that you would just pick up on if you didn't have any experience. And then it wasn't like they were starting off slow. It was all of a sudden just everything happened at one time. And we had originally gone into Karma to help secure the area, because I don't know if you remember or not, there was in between Fallujah and Ramadi was a little town called Karma, and the Marines had just finished really a big assault on Ramadi and trying to flush everybody out. At the same time, the same thing was happening in Fallujah proper. So a lot of the bad guys were really concentrated in Karma at the time, and we spent a lot of the time there. And really, all we were trying to do is round up everybody and just kind of dropping pamphlets, and they just were like, just go cause some chaos. And that was really the entire mission. Like, when we would sit in the mission briefs, the entire mission was go attempt to draw people out and engage. That was it.
Go mix it up with some bad actors.
Yeah, and I was like, that seems not smart, but I guess we'll do it. Like, it worked out, I guess.
so, how did your first firefight? How did that all resolve?
So they took out. It was actually an A-10 gun run, and so we had called, and they had a pretty complex attack. And so my first firefight, it's about as good. It's like I would equate my first firefight as being like your first fuck is like a porn star, where like you're not ready for it, but you get to see everything. It was like I got to do a little bit of combat anal by seeing an A-10 gun run my very first time, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I thought once the A-10 buzzed by, and I heard what an actual brrr goes, and then I saw like the aftermath, and I was like, oh, that's what they mean by pink mist. It was like all these different terms that I had heard since boot camp. They were all starting to come into place. Like, oh, that's what they mean. And then I also thought, like, when I got back to my room, that's the reason why they make us pull the pit, so we understand what it's like when we're getting shot at, what the noise actually going over the round, what going over us actually sounds like. It sounds like a snap, not a gunshot. And like figuring all those things out in real time was a eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you guys to take Karma?
Oh, I don't think we ever did, really. Like, it was very involved, and we spent a majority of the time there. I think like I did a bunch of different operations every single day. We were out and out and out and out. And I don't know, realistically, one, because I was so junior, I was a corporal at the time, and I wasn't even with the recon. I didn't have like the clearances that a lot of those guys had, so I didn't get a lot of the information. But I can't imagine we accomplished a whole lot, really. I mean, the fighting season had died down whenever we were getting ready to leave. I had gotten shot in July as well. And whenever I declined to go home, I wanted to stay back and try to help. I had a round just go through my forearm. And I remember thinking, like, what was this all about? Even at that time, like, what are we really accomplishing here? And I think that was probably the most difficult aspect, is seeing, like, it was the first time that I knew somebody, well, besides Dustin, that got killed when I first got there. It was the first time that people that I had operated with, or people that I had trained with, or even really been around, were killed. It was the first time that I had seen like another Marine take an injury, get shot through his shoulder, and then somebody trying to pull him out of the way, go behind the Humvee and get shot through the leg. And I just remember thinking, like, what is this? What are we accomplishing? Because the way that the intel briefs were coming, it's every time we killed somebody, two more would pop up, and it just seemed like a very endless cycle.
Yeah. When you were when you were like going there, what was your tour completely lined up with First Recon's tour? And what was the standard tour at that time? How long were you guys expected to be in country?
7 months, and it was. I think they might have gotten into country 10 days after me, but it was very, very closely aligned. And they hit the ground running. They knew exactly what they were going to be doing, and like I said, I'm very thankful for those guys. Without those guys, there's no shot I'm alive. Like, they kept me from making terrible mistakes over and over again. And I would not be here without those dudes. They were incredibly capable and incredibly tactically proficient.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I think these recon dudes, some of them were 22 years old.
Yeah.
Like 22, 21, some of them joining fresh out of high school, being in corporal sergeant, leading teams at that age. And no, I have a 16-and-a-half-year-old now. And I try to think, in 6 years, she could be doing that?
Yeah.
No way. Like, how they get young Marines, young service members in general to do the things that they are capable of doing is really remarkable.
Yeah.
And how did Psycho, your dog, perform as far as his job, whether in as an attack role or as a bomb sniffing dog?
Incredibly. And I think that's what really gained their respect. Like, one of the first nights, it might have been only like our third mission, and we were trying to go in from, I think it was OP Muhammad, and we had to go up, it might have been like 10 clicks or so, all walking patrol. And during that time, he found 8 IEDs on that one road.
Wow.
And all of them, we put a charge on it and blew it in place, and we were able to go in. And they said, like, this would have taken us overnight at least, and we were able to get it done in a couple hours. And so when he would find weapons caches that, like, if we were looking at different areas that were like weapons that were buried, and he could even find rounds, like if they had magazines stored together, he could find those. And most explosive dogs won't do that. His nose was so good, even buried magazines buried, he was able to find it.
That's crazy.
There was a car that went by once, and it was like a white car, and Psycha, he turned to it and shit, like, while he was standing. I was like, somebody needs to check that vehicle, because because the dogs don't know that they're looking for bombs. They don't know that they're looking for anything that could hurt them. They think they're looking for a toy.
Right.
So when there's so much explosives in a car that goes by and it causes him to have that reaction, it's like he thinks that a Toys R Us is going by.
Right.
He's like, I need that fucking thing. I bet there's some toys in that, Dad. Like, get that thing.
Right.
And so we stopped it, and it was a VBID that was like on the way to Camp Fallujah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was awesome.
I mean, just the logistics of that, though, that sounds like such an incredibly dangerous situation that thing clacks off, because, you know, I mean, you obviously have to control it from cover and get the driver out, or shoot the driver and then check it or whatever. I don't know.
Yep. So we had people in the back, and there was oversight of the road that we were going down, and they had just let the Marines had let people go by so that we could go, because there was a line of like 10 cars or something, and we wanted them to go at night. We were like, go, 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 go. And one of them went by. I was like, no, not that one. That one's got to stay.
Yeah.
And they ended up pulling the guy out at gunpoint and searching it. And I went over, and Psycha alerted on the trunk. I was like, yeah, there's something in here. We moved back and blew the truck up in place.
Wow. That's amazing. That's incredible.
And what was the story that you mentioned to me a little bit today, that there's an incident where he found a chlorine gas bomb?
Yeah. So and we never got confirmed that there was chlorine in it, but we had one of the intel briefs that we got.